Good morning, everybody. I am excited to be here again. I got some stuff to talk about. I'm really nervous to talk about it. Oh my God. And yeah, so before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that we can keep in touch and have conversations, healthy conversations about everything. My website is agirlaftergodsheart.com. My Facebook forum is Queer Quiet Corner. Queer Quiet Corner. I have a Instagram, MJ the Author, and this YouTube channel. So I do a lot of writing, a lot of talking. And today I want to talk about my family's reaction to my book. Yes, the book that has definitely caused a lot of change to happen in my life recently. And here is the book. Look at how that cross is on. It's on fire. Savior, right? it's burning. God, I play so much. I'm sorry. God, a lesbian, and the space in between. Yep, that's me. That's when I was working out. Yeah. So, but seriously, that is amazing. I didn't notice that until today. So, God, a lesbian, and the space in between. So basically, I know that the title of my book is very controversial. That's understood. But it took me a while to write it. It took me about 6 years to write it. But I just want to talk about my family's response to the book. The book is about my life. The book is about the things I experienced coming out in a very strict and religious family. My family is if I could put it all together, apostolic, holiness, Pentecostal, and Methodist all in one with some Kojic wrapped around it. Yep, I went to the type of church where you had to wear your skirt below the knees and you had to wear the shirts past your elbows and you couldn't have a perm. So that I don't know what that has to do with God, but that's their thing. To each his own. But my family's response to the book has been actually what I expected. A little bit unexpected. A little bit of unexpected things have happened, but we'll talk about that. So first off, when I published the book, while I was writing it, I told my mother, I said, Mom, some of these conversations are going to go in my book. Like, I've got to tell people, like, how this makes me feel because there's nothing out there like this, not yet, and I just got to make people aware. I really wrote this book for mothers that have queer children and fathers that have queer children as well as queer people who don't think that they can have a healthy relationship with God as they are. Now, when my mother received the book, because I sent it to her, I was like, Mom, I sent you the book. She read the first couple of pages. And the first thing she said to me, she texted me, she said, so it looks like you're bashing your mother. So first off, I don't bash anybody. Second off, I tell my story. Now, if what I'm saying in the story, if I'm telling you what you did and you think it's bashing you, how do you think I felt? Right? What do you think I felt while I was receiving that from you? Right? So I just, I let that go because it's a natural response to be upset if you're doing things and then it comes out into the open. But I made her aware. And here's the thing: if you're embarrassed by what I wrote, then why do it? Right? That doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I had a cousin to come to me and say, yeah, so, I told her about my book. I was like, yeah, I talk about my experiences and what I think about God. And she said, well, you shouldn't even really call yourself a Christian anyway. I was like, And she said, and you shouldn't even really go to church because, they don't agree with that type of thing. I said, well, I didn't ask for your approval. I didn't ask for the church's approval either. I'm just discussing my book with you. That wasn't in question. So, over the years, I've had to learn how to do that. I've had to learn how to be quick with a response in my confidence because folks they will tear you down with words, but I will not allow that to happen. Not to Michelle Johns, honey. So, those were the responses that I was getting. One of my aunts told me, she said, Michelle, not everything needs to be addressed. And this proves my point that I talked about on a podcast that I was invited to interview on a few months ago. And I said, I would rather deal with racism than homophobia. And the lady asked me, she said, why? I said, because racism comes from strangers. Homophobia is at home, right? So it has a different impact. But the most detrimental relationship or the most detrimental thing that has happened to me since I wrote the book was the broken relationship between me and my brother. So I don't talk to my mother anymore either. We don't have a relationship. Since I wrote the book, she has been really vocal about how she feels about when I talk about things about same-sex relationships. I brought something up, but she was like, well, Michelle, it's not always about that. Stop being a punk and stop whining. Right. So I no longer have a relationship with her because that is not something that you are allowed to say to me. Number one, as my mother. Number two, no, that's just not going to happen. So but the relationship with my brother and I have been close for years. And ever since we were, maybe he was 18, because when we were young, I wasn't really present, but I actually moved back to Maryland to be closer to him and my sister. So all throughout writing the book, I was like, brother, oh my God, can you please read my book? Like, read it and tell me what you think, okay? So he read it, and after each time that he read it, he was like, oh my God, sis, this is such a good book, and it's going to help people. And throughout writing the book, he even had a dream once, and he said, hey, I had a dream that you were standing outside of a church yelling and screaming and telling people not to go in because something bad was going to happen. And he said they went in anyway, and they came back out quickly, and they said, you were right. Tell us how to fix this. So he told me after that dream, he was like, don't stop talking, sister. Don't stop writing. Don't stop, standing up for yourself and everything. So, it was confusing when I wrote the book, the way he started treating me. He started to snap at me really angrily, like just simple things, just like he would just snap at me and snark at me. So, during that time, a few months after writing the book, my wife and I were trying to secure the safety for the children. And my brother was living with us at the time, as well as the kids. The kids had their own room. They had their own bathroom, and they were good. They were safe. Now, when I released the book and I started the process, my brother took the children from the house. And I know that it was out of spite. He took the children from the house from a safe place, and he put them in a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 other people in a twin size bed, and they both sleep there together. Now, you can't tell me that's not hate. That's hatred, period. So what did I do? I just, I just took it. I was like, all right, God, you have me here. I'm going to believe you. But then my brother started taunting me. I remember I was in the kitchen one day, and it was after he told me the kids were leaving. So then a few hours after he told me they were leaving, he came downstairs and he was like, so how is your book going? How is your day, sister? What's going on? Like, how was your business? So he was pushing and he was taunting me, and it was causing me great anxiety. And I told him even before that happened, I was like, hey, the way you're talking to me is giving me anxiety. What's going on? What's wrong? And we had a conversation, and I voiced my concerns. He voiced his, and I thought we were good. But then when I told him that the conversation sent me to the hospital, he said, well, conversations with family can be difficult. So everybody turned on me once I've written a book. And I understand that this story is very raw. It talks about sex. It talks about queer relationships. It talks about the effects of religion on the hearts and minds of queer people, especially Black queer people. And my brother just changed. I eventually had to ask him to leave, and it was terrible. I had to go to drastic measures because he had become so disrespectful. So I had dealt with a lot of stuff from my family. I no longer have a relationship with my brother, and I no longer wish to. And my mother, if they need me, I'll be there. God bless them. May heaven smile upon them. But that's just where I am, because I cannot allow that to happen to my space, my energy, my heart. I will not allow someone to break my heart on purpose. Absolutely, I will not. So what I want to do now is read the letter to you that I wrote to Bishop Jakes, and I want you to see what his response was in the letter that he wrote to me. Dear Bishop Jakes, I am humbled to write you. I've listened to your preaching more than I can count, more times than I can count, and you've heavily influenced the way I perceive God. You said something during a sermon that has been a great source of strength while enduring discrimination as a lesbian in my family and in society. The sermon focused on a perception that facilitates peacefully enduring an offense. You said God will only elevate you to the level of offense you're capable of without a negative reaction. My spirit regurgitates this wisdom each time I'm treated differently due to my sexuality, and it gives me hope. Because of that sermon, I was able to hang out with my father for the last 5 years of his life, although he was extremely homophobic, so your sermon was a miracle to me. Writing this letter is also a big deal because it feels like I'm writing it to my father. Sadly, he died in March of 2018. Surprisingly, while talking to my sister about sending you this letter, she reminded me of the time my father took us to a church in North Carolina where you were preaching. After the sermon, you called my father out of the audience at random and prayed for him. I'll never forget the way my father committed to ministry after that prayer and was later ordained as a pastor. Because of that prayer, my father taught me how to research and find revelation on my own. My father also then nurtured my passion for wisdom. Thus, your prayer was a seed that evolved into a legacy of ministry. So once I finished the last edits of my book, God spoke your name to me in a dream, and I saw your face clearly. God asked me to send a copy of my book to you, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure why until I spoke to my sister. I initially told God no because it was just too much, and I just said, God, please, not Bishop Jakes. He's my hero. I hold you in such high regard, Bishop, and I feel like I've studied your teachings all my life, like a faithful student sitting under a spiritual modern-day Marcus Aurelius or Aristotle. So basically, that's what I told him, and I told him that the purpose of my book is not to change anyone's perspective, but to start conversations and to give confidence and hope to people that in the LGBTQ community that feel like they don't have access to God because of the way the church is representing God itself. Now, one thing that is important, there are so many people in the LGBTQ community that are anointed and used by God every day. Hopefully they will write books and tell their stories as well. So that's what I told him in short, because it was a little long. But Bishop Jakes wrote me back, the executive office of Bishop Jakes, and I'm going to cover up my address because I don't want none of y'all come and see me. Leave me alone. All right, so here we go. So this is a letter from the Potter's house, and this is what it is, the executive office of Bishop T.D. Jakes. So first, when I got the envelope, I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, I didn't expect him to write me. So it said, the letter says, greetings, Miss Johns. Blessings and peace be unto you. I pray that this letter reaches you enjoying God's choicest blessings. On behalf of Bishop T.D. Jakes, we want to thank you for your gift. It is a testament of your faith and commitment to this ministry that you share your book, God, A Lesbian, and the Space in Between. Please know that we value you and respect your integrity and commit to you our prayers for the kingdom work assigned to you. Again, thank you, and may God continue to bless you and your family. In his service, the executive office of Bishop T.D. Jakes Sr. So let me tell y'all, when I read that letter, after everything that I was going through, nothing else mattered. And that's the way God has affirmed me all throughout this book. In instances like that, I will do something that has never been done before, something that is crazy, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then I'm like, okay, but I'll do it because I love you, God. And then I do it, and then things like that happen. That is the power that is in my life that God continues to show. And no matter what happens to me, I am okay. Miles Monroe said, and then I'm going to let you go. Miles Monroe said, the storm is not a punishment or what God thinks you deserve, but the storm is a representation of the strength that God knows is within you. So he will trust you with that storm because he knows that you can make it out of it. And no matter how many times I've been rejected, and let me tell y'all, I have been rejected. No matter how many times people just are disloyal, no matter how many times people have tried to take my joy, nobody can touch me because I am in God's hands. And all queer people, every trans person, every lesbian, every gay man, every person in the LGBTQ, LMNOP community, whatever letter it is. Why are there so many letters? God loves you as you are. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. And for God to affirm me like that, I think I'm going to press on just a little while longer. All right, you guys. I am so excited to write some more and to talk some more. I will talk to you guys later. Love you.